Contact in stadiums shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Now you're very welcome back. If you're just tuning in, Spurs are 1-0 up against Fulham. 54 minutes on the clock. Harry Kane with the goal. And Man City have beaten Brighton already this evening. Phil Foden cutting in off the now Phil Foden left-hand side and scoring with his right foot. So City, come Sunday evening, there's every chance Man City will be top of the table. They are coming up on the outside rails. Damien Delaney, good evening.
Joe, how are you?
I'm very well, my man. So listen, it's time for you to pull your neck in and give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a bit of credit here.
You're opening with this, Joe, yeah? No, I believe that my point still stands. I think I've been very consistent in what I said, and I don't believe that he is the man to get Manchester United back to the standard or where the bar is set for Manchester United. You know, since we last spoke, he had 3 stabs at getting out of the Champions League group and failed at all 3. They were beaten in the cup semi-final off Manchester City. They are top of the league. He's done better than what I thought he would have done. I mean, when he was 15th in the league, I thought he was going to get sacked. He wouldn't see the end of the season. I think no, he quite rightly will see the end of the season and get a chance to see it out. But ultimately, I mean, even the most optimistic Man United fans doesn't truly believe they're actually going to win the league. And I just think that Man United fans being genuinely happy that the fact that they're just gone top in January just shows how starved they are of any glimmer of light. I think Manchester City, that juggernaut, just seems to be getting moving now, and I think it's going to be very hard to stop. I mean, when you look, they've got 36 points from 17 games. It's a reasonable haul. It's not a huge amount when you look at the standard over the last 3 or 4 years. Having said that, they are top, and that doesn't matter. They can only be where they are. And as I said, because they are top, he does get to see it out. But you got to talk about progress for Manchester United. What did they finish last year? 3rd, Joe? I think at best they're going to finish 2nd this year. I mean, that would be a really, really good season for them. So he has to win an FA Cup. He has to win the Europa League. Or he has to win the Premier League, because that will be progression. I still stand by it. I mean, that squad that was involved last night was 450 million quid. I mean, it's quite easy to mix up what I'm saying that Manchester United are useless, they're never going to win a game. I mean, 450 million quid, of course they're going to win games. But I don't see them winning trophies. You know, he can't even get past the semi-final. That's incredible. You know, at least Van Gaal won an FA Cup, Mourinho won a League Cup, a Europa League. I mean, is the football fantastic? You know, if you wanted to say, you know, he's playing better football than Van Gaal, fair enough. They're playing better football than Mourinho, possibly. But at the same point, they're not playing as good as Man City. They're not, I don't think, as good a side as Liverpool. You saw the other night in the League Cup semi-final. There's a clear gulf in the 2 teams.
Yeah. Look, I'm not necessarily sure Solskjaer is the right man either. But to throw a few points back at you. Let's park comparisons to Liverpool and Man City for a second, because they can only compare themselves to where they have been, you know?
Absolutely.
And I would say when Van Gaal won the FA Cup and promptly got sacked, don't forget, and even when Mourinho won the Europa League, there was never the sense of progress that there is currently, or the sense of jazz about the team, or sense of, you know, this is a team equipped to play decent football and beat most teams. They always felt very vulnerable under Van Gaal in particular, and under Mourinho the whole thing was so toxic all the time anyway that, you know, there was just a nasty feeling about the place, and the football was so dire. So in comparison to those two with their cups, I wouldn't overestimate the cups, because a sense of progress is just as important. And so totally take your point on the money that's been spent, for sure. Look, they should be about where they are. But some things which impress about Solskjaer, the way he kept his head when it looked like he was on the verge of getting sacked. Most managers have a meltdown interview somewhere in the midst of that. And to be fair to him, he really did keep his head. The other point which jumps out is his handling of the Pogba situation. Like, we're talking about Solskjaer. Is he a manager of authority? And, you know, he's not going to scream at players in a Glaswegian accent, and he's not Jurgen Klopp on the pitch showboating to everyone, and he's not Pep in his fancy clothes. He's just doing his old thing quietly. He's been himself. But there is a bit of an iron fist there, and it's evident in his handling of Pogba, because Mino Raiola was causing havoc. And now Solskjaer has got to a point where Pogba does not know if he's starting against Liverpool. In fact, with McTominay and Fred, he's probably not starting against Liverpool, and that's just the way it is, Paul. And Solskjaer's picking the team he wants to pick, and he's beholden to nobody, including Pogba. Someone like a Jesse Lingard, like emblematic of kind of the mediocrity at United, has not started a Premier League game in a year. In a year, that's just been done. That's over. Van de Beek signed. People giving out, why isn't he playing? Well, he's not playing because Solskjaer doesn't want to play him, and he's not going to bow down to the pressure that comes with being a United manager. Lots of others would, and I think, you know, with his whole not wanting to park in Alex Ferguson's car spot initially, and that kind of hung around him, there was a sense he was weak in some way. I think you would have to say, in the last 6 months, in all those little ways I've illustrated, there is a backbone there that you have to recognise, no?
But possibly, but I think to take up on your initial point there, Joe, of there has been progress and there's a jazz about the team.
To a point.
I don't know.
To a point, yeah, to a point.
Yeah, I mean, like, is that because that they've got good PR now and that there seems to be, you know, quite good kind of
I think, sorry to interrupt, it's Bruno. Like, Bruno Fernandes is,
yeah.
and like, but look at that, great managers have to make great signings, and Bruno was a great signing. And you know what, when Cavani signed, I think a lot of United fans thought, oh my God, Cavani a little bit over the hill. What a brilliant, shrewd signing. So, like, you know, he's making better signings as well, you would have to say.
I'm not sure you'd say Cavani's a shrewd signing. I mean, they signed the Gallo too. I mean, Cavani's come in and done reasonably well. He's 33, and he was on a free transfer for months, you know, even from January before they signed him in October. Nobody touched him. He's a decent player. He's not going to give you 40, 50 games a season. He's not going to score you 20, 30 goals.
No,
like
but hasn't he scored at those crucial big moments? He's delivered for them. He's done well.
He's done reasonably well, yeah, but I'm just saying the long-term future of Manchester United, where is it? But, I mean, look, I grant you he has done better and he seems to have found some sort of a rhythm. I still think tactically Manchester United are really, really poor. I still believe that. I mean, Fernandinho in the Cup semi-final, basically that's what Manchester United are lacking because one Fernandinho did the job of two people in McTominay and Fred. You know, you'll get away with playing the Matiches last night against Aston Villa, but you won't get away with playing a single holding midfield player. They have to play two because the centre-backs aren't good enough. I've consistently made that point and I'm blue in the face from saying it. So they need to go and find a good number 6. But on top of that then, I just don't think that they're, you know, they lose too many big games.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can't argue that. They've lost semi-finals. They're clear gulf in class to the blue side of Manchester. Liverpool seem to have found a rocky patch. I believe that Liverpool will get themselves going again and will get moving. And I believe the league will come down between those two. Now, he might surprise me. Manchester United might want to win the league, and that would be fair enough. As I said, I don't even believe the most optimistic of Manchester United fans would believe that. But I do agree with you to a point that he has done better. And Fernandes and Rashford really are a huge part of that.
Yeah. And would you say Solskjaer, I mean, look, this is probably a redundant question if ultimately you don't think he's the right person for the job. If that's your opinion, then there's just no point hanging around. But on some level, would you say, well, based on the signings of like the likes of Fernandes and the recent improvement in the team, and even Cavani, you know, other teams could have taken him, they didn't. Solskjaer deserves the opportunity to try and find that 6 and to try and find those full-backs and then to see what he can do.
I still believe he's lacking as a manager, even if he got 2 fullbacks. I mean, Wan-Bissaka's got 1 goal, 1 assist. Yeah. I think Luke Shaw's not even got a goal or an assist this season. So they're getting you're quite right in saying that. They have to play with 2 defensive midfield players, which means they're relying on 4 players every week to win them games. You know, Rashford, Fernandes, Cavani, and probably Martial. You know, if you could play with 1 number 6, you could free up Van de Beek to play in there with Fernandes, and Manchester United might get a bit more joy. Tactically, I think Manchester United are a little bit short. I believe he makes too many poor decisions in big games and has cost Manchester United.
Could you give me one example of that? I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just curious.
In the Champions League, he did 3 stabs at getting out of it. I mean, ultimately, right, Manchester United start games. Even last night, take, for example, Burnley. Yeah. They're very, very, very submissive early on in games. They don't really, I mean, I'm watching Tottenham tonight, and as soon as the game kicked off, they took control of it. I watched Manchester City early. As soon as the game kicked off, they took control of it. No, they're not going to control the game for 90 minutes, but they set a tempo, they control it. I think Burnley were reasonably good in the first half, but Burnley got to implement their game plan in terms of, you know, clipping long balls forward, and Manchester United defended very, very well. But at no point, maybe in the second half a little bit, they kind of asserted some amount of control on the game. And I believe that when you play against top teams, if you can't gain some level of control early on in a game, you're going to get beat. And that's why they get beat off big teams. That's why they get beat off good teams. Even Başakşehir here in the Champions League, even in Leipzig, and even at who's the last game? PSG as well. Sorry, in the third chance they had to get out of the division. Yeah. And I just believe that in tight games, in big games, players want to have the confidence in a manager that they've been sent out there with a game plan, a clear way of winning, so that when things aren't going their way, they feel comfortable in falling back on something. I think a lot of footballers need to have that, and I don't believe that Manchester United do.
Okay. I'm starting to sway back to thinking he's doing a very, very acceptable job. And I do think he does send them out with plans. Actually, I think you can see them playing with very different plans in different games.
They absolutely don't. They're so off the cuff. It's unbelievable. They're one of the most off the cuff teams I've seen. But why is he judged off a different standard of other Manchester United managers?
But he's the first manager to have him top of the table 17 games in since 2012. That's the true test of consistency, is it not?
He's been there for 2.5 years, Joe. He's not even been in a final. I mean, you cannot.
But Mourinho, Van Gaal, Moyes, none of them got United to the top of the table 17 games in. So
January, Joe. That's what that's what I talk about with Man United fans. They're so low right now.
They are so low. But you can only judge them by their own standards. So he's had to clean up a lot of that lowness, a lot of that crap. Get rid of all these players.
Even in the recent past, they had 3 goals getting out of the Champions League and they failed every one of them, and they lost the other night to Manchester City. Even when they were desperate to make it to a final.
I know.
If he wins a trophy this year, then I'll start saying, then you can start having a conversation where I go, okay, fair enough.
So are you saying you think Van Gaal did a good job because he won the FA Cup? I mean, what the hell is that worth? It doesn't matter.
I never said Van Gaal did a good job. I just said he won a trophy.
Yeah, but boo-hoo. He got sacked. No one cares about the FA Cup. It doesn't actually matter.
But you said, your opening statement was Manchester United have made progress. Let's park the cups for a second. Have they? I mean, they're 36 points from 17 games. I mean, Jose Mourinho finished second. And he stated that it was his greatest achievement as a manager, getting that Manchester United team to finish second.
Yeah.
Second in January, what's progress for Manchester United this year? I mean, they finished third last year, so second and no trophy.
I see. Final. It's hard to judge this year because it's hard to know what effect COVID has had on all the teams. Liverpool clearly nowhere near where they were, so in that sense, it's an easier season for Manchester United. But then, if COVID has affected Liverpool, you have to be fair and say it's probably affected United as well. Absolutely. I think a sign of progress would be. Not if they win the league, because they're clearly not the best team in the league. If they can hang in and make some kind of a title race that everyone knows they're probably not going to win, but make some kind of a title race out of this up until mid to late April, still be in it mathematically, still part of the conversation, then that represents some progress. Now,
are those standards acceptable for Manchester United, being in a title race in April?
I mean, not if you're David Moyes straight off the Alex Ferguson season, but if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer straight off the last 6-7 years, it's a bit more acceptable.
But he's had 2.5 years and he's spent an incredible amount of money and he's not been to a final. And Manchester United is the biggest club in the UK. They are an outfit that is built on winning. Winning is the only thing the club understands. He's had 2.5 years. He can't get past the semi-final. He spent 280 million quid. Yeah. That team last night was 450. They beat Burnley 1-0. They're top of the league in the middle of January. I think he needs to win a trophy this year and then finish second, and that's progress. But if he finished third last year and he finishes second at best this year, at best, and no trophy, no final, can you say that's progress?
Might depend on the nature of the second. I mean, it's still only January. I can't speed up time, so he can only do what he can do at the moment.
But how long is he going to be given then? 10 years?
Oh, minimum.
Because the pace he's moving at, next year if he finishes second and they take it to the last couple of games of the season and he makes an FA Cup final, you can argue that's progress as well. Yeah. I just think that Manchester United need to be back to being what they are, which is winning leagues, challenging for leagues every year, latter stages of the Champions League every season. And pretty quick, the longer they wait, the tougher it's going to be. And I just don't believe this guy has that. You say that he has got kind of an iron. What did you say?
I said, look, there's a certain steel there that you may not have suspected was there when he wouldn't park in Alex Ferguson's spot for the first couple of weeks.
But when you say he handled Pogba, when you say handled, what did he do? He just ignored it, really, with the Mino Raiola stuff. Everyone was
an example of that then. Mourinho in that instance, all hell breaks loose. Mourinho was falling out with Pogba anyway. Solskjaer came out strongly against Raiola, basically called him a disgrace or whatever. And you know, had some curt enough words that, you know, his agent needs to realise it's a team game. Maintained very good relationship with Pogba, kept him on side. Pogba hasn't gone off and sulked. Pogba's now in and out of the team whenever Solskjaer wants to pick him, and Pogba seems to be going along with this. He may miss the game at Anfield. So I think that's a well-handled situation, you know?
Jose Mourinho's a winner, serial winner, and he understands that the team comes
He's only
first.
third in the league.
I know, but over his course of his career, he's a serial winner, Mourinho.
Yeah.
And he understands what it takes to win leagues. He's won them everywhere he's been. And he understands that you can't have people like Pogba paddling their own canoe, doing what they want, because it creates unrest in the changing room.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure he tried to handle Pogba the correct way and speak to him and talk his agent down. But it gets to a point where if the player is having a negative effect on the team and they're not winning the league, he's quite right to say, this guy is undermining me. So he decided, I need to deal with this Pogba problem once and for all, and maybe he did get frustrated, and I believe that's the case. You know,
but Solskjaer may well think, for all we know, privately, you might be chatting with Solskjaer privately, and he might say, look, medium term, I want Pogba out, but it's good management to use what you have while you have it.
Absolutely.
So
and he is using
that's why I think the Pogba situation pretty well handled. I mean, look, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate with you a little bit, so I don't want to come too strongly as if I think Solskjaer's the answer. I'm not necessarily sure.
No, not at all.
Either, you know?
These are all valid. These are all valid questions, and I've got no problem asking them. I genuinely do. But I mean, I just don't see that he's got that steel, that real tenacity that when players lose semi-finals, that, you know, when you lose big games or big games, important games, or any game really, you want to be sitting at home on Saturday night thinking to yourself, I don't even want to go in tomorrow because I'm getting both barrels. I just, you know, and you want to have that I wouldn't say fear, but level of like, you know, I don't want to let the manager down. I don't want to like, I can't do it. And I just don't believe Solskjaer does that. I mean, he's forever smiling, you know, he's a nice, happy guy, and he doesn't put any serious pressure on the players.
But then by the same token, we could have another conversation and we could say that the Martin O'Neill, Roy Keane, you know, scream at the players type of management is ancient history and like it's past it and you can't talk to players like that anymore, you know?
I never said, well, I mean, fair enough, but you still want to have a level of like, I'm going to get dropped or I'm going to not play for Manchester United if I don't perform in the big games. I mean, fair enough, maybe not the shouting one, but you still want to have a level of respect or fear that the manager is going to take drastic action if I don't perform in big games. But look, Joe, I mean, we can argue or talk about it. So
I would never argue with you.
Absolutely. We can talk about the cows go on, but ultimately, he's not won anything. He's not been to a final, and I think that's not good enough for Manchester United.
No, that's fair.
And ultimately, that's my stance. And, you know, he's done better than what I thought he did. I didn't think he would see the new year. I'd say when the last time you and me spoke. But like you said, maybe the league's a bit off this year, and the pack have kind of come back to the top two have come back to the pack, as opposed to anyone, as I said, the start Manchester United's points total of 36 points from 17 games is decent. It's not amazing by the standards that Liverpool and Man City have set over the last number of years, but, you know, I think Liverpool will get themselves going eventually. They're in a bit of a lull at the minute. I think Manchester City are pretty much up and running, and it'd be hard to see them being stopped this year.
Well, look, I'll only invite you on for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer debates when United are top of the league or doing well, because that suits me. That's how this is going to work. Just FYI. Like, when they're in 7th in about a month, don't expect a phone call.
No problem.
Can I give you Man City's next few games, by the way?
Go on then.
Crystal Palace at home, Sunday evening. This is after the game at Anfield. And if things go a certain way, they'll be beating Palace at home to go top of the table. So they got Palace at home. Then their trickiest game is probably Villa. But it's Villa at home, so you'd back Man City. Then they have West Brom. Then they have Sheffield United. Then they have Burnley, who they always beat. And so suddenly, it's the 6th of February, and they play Liverpool. And they could well be, I mean, you could easily see them having maximum points from then, or from now until then. They're starting to look really good. One of the things we're hearing about City is they've tailored their training to come good around now. Is that, on your understanding of pre-seasons and being a Premier League football, is that a genuine possible thing you can do, that suddenly you get this burst of fitness at a certain point later in the season? I
did. I made this point a couple of times. I've done a lot of Man City games in Europe, and they certainly seem to be playing within themselves. You know, I thought they looked very, I suppose I might have described them as lethargic or one pace, but they were very, very comfortable. And I did say that it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that Pep Guardiola is going to keep them in second gear and realising that they can crank it up the back half of the season. It certainly seems that's the way he's gone about it, and his experience of being in England, you know, the Premier League, the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Champions League. It was impossible to go foot to the floor in all 4 competitions, and he definitely seemed to have the reins on them the first half of the year, because the way they cranked it up now. Now, the other point I have to make is Diaz, the centre-back coming in, has made a huge difference to them.
Yeah.
Not just the fact that he's a fantastic defender, but it's freed up Fernandinho to go and play in the middle of the park again. And he is a proper centre midfield player. I mean, they missed him for a year playing at centre-back because they missed him out of the middle of the park, and obviously he's not a natural centre-back, and I think he struggled there a little bit at times. But having him back in the middle of the park alongside Rodri, who is the main passer and sets the tempo and gets it going, but Pep has understood that you need a dog in there to win the battle first and foremost, and maybe Rodri didn't have that in him, because he is a neat and tidy footballer. But I think Fernandinho coming into that number 6 role, and obviously Diaz and the resurgence of John Stones as well, all seems to come together nicely. De Bruyne looked fantastic again today when I watched him, and they really do seem to be moving through the gears. And hopefully, you know, they can really kick into top gear, because they are a fantastic sight when they're in top gear.
Yeah, hold that thought. I want to ask you about Stones, and actually Foden out in the left as well has been interesting the last couple of weeks. But there has been a goal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 76 minutes on the clock here. They were 1-0 up. Here's Nigel Bidmead.
Tottenham 1, Fulham 1, the visitors equalising in the 74th minute, and it's another terrific header, this time from Ivan Cavallero, his 2nd of the season. Ademola Lookman honours a substitute cross from the left, and Cavallero planted the header beyond Lloris. Tottenham 1, Fulham 1.
Yeah, there you are. There's Jose Mourinho, serial winner against 8
Yeah,
teams on the
but
table.
can I just say that, just a quick point on Tottenham, Højbjerg in the middle of the park, I think is a huge difference for Tottenham. You know, I mean, he really is a top class defensive midfield player. The goal came totally against the run of play. Tottenham have had a host of chances. I'm just watching it here, but just similar to Manchester United, you know, to have that proper number 6 in that midfield for Tottenham really has made a difference for them.
I've always been rooting for John Stones since we had a chat about him one evening, and you were saying you bumped into him and he was, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I got the impression someone, touch of a worrier, conscientious type, was, you know, could get in on himself a little bit, was the way I interpreted it. So he's played the last 7 games alongside Diaz, forming a partnership, playing well, starting to grow into it again. I mean, this is great. I think it would have been such a pity if he'd been lost to, you know, a really good club, because he's such a talented, enjoyable player to watch. Yeah, super player. Technically fantastic, quick, everything really. Just moments or lapses. Oh my God, Tottenham are in again. Or Fulham nearly scored again. God. Sorry. Yeah, really top player. I mean, really good. And I'd say this year was pretty much last chance saloon for him. You know, he kind of was out of the picture for a long period and kind of got in just by default, really. But he's taken his chance, and he really looks to have matured. Having Diaz alongside him and Fernandinho in front of him has really helped him too. But he's been brilliant. I'm delighted for him, because he is such a good player. How are you watching this game? What channel is it on? Premier. Ah, right. Ruben Loftus-Cheek just nearly went through 1-on-1 there, and Lloris made an unbelievable save. But Tottenham have been pretty good tonight. They've had a host of chances. I mean, Jose will be raging that they didn't take at least one more of them. But it's 1-1 with 12 minutes left. Look, they're 3rd in the table. He's doing really well. So before I let you go, actually, I'm going to skip Foden to ask you this instead. So I put this to David Myler last night, and he had an interesting answer. Mika Richards was on the BBC website the other day, and the headline was one of the most inspirational people I've ever met, by Mika Richards. And I thought, wow, interesting. And it was James Milner, you know, and he was talking about Milner, the teammate, approachable, reliable. You could phone him at midnight, he'd answer the phone. Just so important around a dressing room in all the ways you probably can't measure with statistics and, you know, these more tangible ways of measuring what a player brings to a team. So I asked David Myler, I'll ask you now. I'm putting you on the spot, I know. Is there a player that you played with that you would put into the category of inspirational in the way Milner was? What, that you could talk to him and stuff? Just that you would have looked at him and just thought, he's the way he conducts himself as a professional is, you know, borderline inspirational. I couldn't admire that person, you know, on off the field more.
Yeah, there was when I was young enough at Hull City, we signed Nick Barmby at the later stages of his career. We were in League One at the time, and he was very, very similar. Such a good fella, right? Really, really nice guy. He was a local lad from Hull. He was coming home to his hometown club.
Yeah.
And I think he was 34, 35 at the time. But again, just to watch him in training, his work ethic, you know, coming in as a young guy and as a young professional, kind of finding your way in the game, just seeing him coming in and the way he conducted himself around the training ground, his desire to win, you know, the way he trained, the level that he trained at when he did train was something else. And he set a fantastic standard for us. And that's something that I always took with me in my career as well. It's an everyday thing. So he'd be the one I picked, to be honest with you.
Yeah, interesting. See, like a great career, Everton, Liverpool, Leeds, and would never have given Nick Barmby much of a thought in my life.
Yeah, really nice fella, like really, really, really good fella. I mean, for young pro, you know, Peter Taylor was the manager, signed him at the time, and we had a lot of young guys in our squad. There was, you know, a lot of guys, 21, 22, 23, and Nick came in and he was brilliant for all of us because we were all, as I said, finding our way, and he was almost like the father-like figure for the whole thing, and he's one guy that would always stick in my mind. That I learned a whole lot from, just speaking to him on away trips, you know, long away trips in the buses, just talking and stuff. And he gave me great insight to what it was to be a professional footballer.
Okay, brilliant. Might try and nag Nick Barmby for an interview now. We're always looking for like who was not a nice guy. It's nice to do a section where we're like, who was a good guy? So Nick Barmby, there you go.
Nick would be a great one, yeah.
Okay. So listen, I don't know when I'll talk to you again. It won't be if Man United are faltering, but if they're doing really well, obviously keep your phone on.
No, you call me any you want, man. I'll happily. Like, I mean, if Man United do go on and win the league, though, I'm throwing my phone in the river.
Oh man, I mean, COVID or no COVID, you're coming into the studio for 3 hours. We've a lot to talk about. All right, I'll let you go. See you later.